This is Driving Solutions, exclusively on CBTNews.com.
Hello everyone, I'm Jim Fitzpatrick. Thanks so much for joining us today. In the fast-paced and often intricate world of buy-sell transactions, there is, a name that continually surfaces as a trusted source of expertise and guidance, and that is Haig Partners. That is a name that's been around the industry for a long time. They do a great job. Today we're joined by two of the faces behind the leading buy-sell advisory team to bring us up to speed on activity today and what might lie ahead in 2024. Pete Thiel, who's Managing Director at Haig Partners, and Jayson Crouch, who is also Managing Director at Haig Partners. Thank you both for joining me today. I appreciate it very much. Pete, I'd like to start with you. You recently represented a seller in the Mobile, Alabama market. Can you tell us a little bit about that transaction?
Yeah, thanks, Jim. Great to be here.
Sure.
We just recently completed a very successful transaction down in Alabama. I represented Josh and Ashley Gunther on the sale of Team Gunther Kia VW in Daphne, Alabama.
Okay.
Daphne, Alabama is on the eastern shore of Mobile Bay, outside of Mobile, Alabama. The buyer was Spring Hill Automotive, led by Tal Vickers, the dealer principal there.
Okay, sure.
They're based out of Mobile.
Sure.
There was strong demand for the stores, I think for two main reasons. Number one, the Southeast is hot. There are buyers all over the country looking for stores in the Southeast, primarily for two reasons. Strong population growth, and it's a great business environment. We are regularly contacted by dealers up in the Northeast, the Midwest, even as far as California, looking to grow in the Southeast.
Yeah, makes sense.
Second reason is Kia is hot. It's a different brand, as you know, from 10 years ago.
Yeah.
They have amazing product that consumers love. The fixed ops business is growing rapidly, and profitability is much different today versus 10 years ago.
Yeah, there's no question.
As far as working for a small family versus a big company like AutoNation.
Yeah, that was my next question. What's that like? What's the difference in those two?
I really enjoy helping small families through the process. That's really my favorite aspect of my job here at Haig Partners. I worked for AutoNation for 20 plus years. Got a lot of great experience. I learned from some of the best. We were just talking about Mike Maroney.
That's right. Yeah.
Amazing retailer. I have worked on over 1,000 different acquisition opportunities, bought or sold about 150 stores.
Oh my gosh.
So to take all that experience, translate it to a transaction with a small family they've never sold a store before. They don't understand the intricacies of a buy-sell transaction. So that's really satisfying for me.
That's right. I spoke to one dealer that's in the process of this, and he said, I don't know what I don't know. I operated my business for so long, and myself and my family, we've had it for 30 years. We were not in the buy-sell mode. He said, so we really leaned on, in your case, it was, Haig Partner was a Haig Partner client, and he said, we really leaned on you guys in a big way because you've been there, especially with that many transactions under your belt. That's incredible. Jayson, turning to you for a second, you just joined Haig Partners. You probably couldn't have picked a better firm out there. They do just an incredible job, as I was saying, and you've got the experience from well-known organizations such as Bank of America and Toyota Financial Services. You've probably seen a lot of these transactions. What are you looking forward to most in taking this opportunity and kind of maximizing the work that you've done over the years here at this new position?
Yeah, you're exactly right. I've had an opportunity, and I would say it's a luxury to work with the dealer body for the majority of my career. And I've worked on a ton of different growth strategies, whether it's organic within the store or acquisition, construction projects, profit optimization, income development, things like this. And I don't see much more rewarding opportunity than to help them maximize the value of their life's work, which is what we say, right? And when I think about what's most exciting, it's really about, if you go on our website for haigpartners.com and you look at the About Us, right? Everyone on that webpage is actively involved full-time in the industry or with our business. And so we have a significant level of expertise to deliver clients. And so I'm super excited about what I can bring from an operational perspective, from a commercial banking perspective, but also collaborating with, we've got over 40 years of public accounting on our team. We've got decades of corporate development on our team. I mean, I'm super excited about what we can bring. I mean, we've all heard the stories, right? Any entrepreneurial venture is extremely challenging, but I think the automotive industry is uniquely challenging. And we've heard the stories of folks growing up on the sales floor, saving their money, and after a while they end up acquiring a store. Down the road they acquire 2 or 3 stores. We've also seen the succession planning, which Pete just mentioned, right? We had an opportunity to work with some great names on some succession planning discussions last week. And we hear of a story of a son who spent his summers, working in every position, including lube tech, who's now running a major organization. So when you look at when that decision comes to make it, whether it's selling a point or exiting the business, that's a significant situation. So I'm looking forward to delivering the full capabilities of our firm to these clients.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Now, we all know and we've heard that that values are negatively impacted right now. So let me start with you, Pete. How is this impacting the buy-sells that we see?
You're absolutely right. Values are declining. And why is that? It's because profitability is coming down.
Right.
As inventories come back, there's more cars available, supply it exceeds demand, front-end grosses are coming down, which is affecting profitability.
Right.
We estimate blue sky values are falling about 1% a month this year.
Okay. It's not terrible.
Not terrible.
Right.
And values are still high compared to pre-pandemic, but they are coming down.
Okay.
And that is affecting the buy-sell market a little bit.
Okay.
But despite that, the activity is still very high.
Okay.
We are very busy working on a lot of transactions across the country. Why is that? Well, look at it from the perspective of a buyer. Number one, they have very strong balance sheets right now. They have a lot of cash built up over the past few years with record profits.
Yeah, of course.
They need to put that money to work. They have high confidence in the industry right now. A lot of the big threats that we saw 3 to 5 years ago are not as much of a concern today. I'm talking about autonomous vehicles, the agency model, and electric vehicles. There's a lot of pent-up demand out there on the new vehicle side, which is going to be wind at the back for dealers for a few years. Fixed ops business is still very, very strong and growing. The average age of a vehicle today is over 12 years.
Yeah, that's good.
And
that's good for
people need
service.
to service their cars.
Yeah, that's right.
And then consolidation continues. A lot of smaller dealers believe they have to grow in order to compete against the big players in the industry. So there's a lot of buyers out there looking for stores. And then on the sell side, Jim, what do sellers like as part of a transaction? They love high prices.
That's right.
So, like we just said, transaction values are still high compared to pre-pandemic. So it's still a great time to sell.
I was going to say, and maybe Jayson, this is where you can jump in as well, and that is that numbers were so incredibly high that we, some of these transactions that we saw literally in the billions of dollars, that the fact that they're coming down at the rate of 1% per month, if I'm a seller, that doesn't scare me at all, because they were so, it's kind of like the sticker price of a car, so it was so out of whack here. I think I say out of whack, but it was so crazy here in the last couple of years that, 1% per month, that's nothing. That's still a great seller's market as far as I'm concerned, right?
Yeah, I agree with you. And so, like, if you purchased a store last year, the investment thesis is still good, right? Because the profitability was coming down a little bit, but at the same time, you had, like, I guess you could say cheat time, right? So you bought in, and then your entry multiple gets pulled down. Currently, I think it's even a more attractive market. Last week, we saw the publics produce all their financials, right? Revenues were very, very strong. Net income was down, and it's mostly margin compression, right? Interest rates are higher, inflationary prices, and things like this. But at the end of the day, the demand remains very, very strong. We're still heading back toward a 65 million unit industry, right? And I think the activity is going to continue. One thing to note was AutoNation had it called out in their actual Q3 that, today M&A activity is more attractive than it was, right? So it's like the investment thesis remains strong. We don't know where the overall valuations are going to land in terms, as it starts to decline, like Pete had mentioned. But overall, the central thought process is it's going to end up balancing somewhere north of where it was pre-pandemic. So at the end of the day, these are still very, very valuable assets, and I think the activity is going to continue to remain. Some of the largest names in our industry are really sub 4% overall market share. I think that the competition, the EV transformations, digital, customer omni-channel experience, all of that's going to continue to drive and consolidation. I think we're still at the beginning of it. The other thing I would bring up is as groups get larger, they tend to attract more top talent. Top talent wants to climb and grow, and the more opportunities they have to land and grow in your organization, the better. So I think it's all going to be very favorable going forward.
Sure. Pete, with values declining, interest rates still at an all-time high, I shouldn't say an all-time high, we've seen higher, right? I'm reminded of the 80s when they were 17 and 18%.
Right.
But what are the buyer and seller expectations, are they further apart now from what they were previously, and how, can a buyer or seller ensure success in a transaction?
Well, to me, it's all about the marketing process. At Haig Partners, we've been honing the process for years. We're looking to continuously improve it, and it proves results. We've sold a number of stores the past year and set record prices.
I know.
It starts with providing a valuation for our clients up front, what we think the stores will bring in the market today. Number two, we build a comprehensive set of offering materials. So this is a marketing package that includes every single point a buyer would need to understand the opportunity and make an investment decision. This is really important. We put a lot of work into it up front, and it really sets us apart from our competition. We have great relationships with buyers across the country. We're doing this day to day. Yes, we do have relationships with the big public companies and the big regional players, but we also have hundreds of buyers on the sidelines looking for stores, certain brands in certain markets across the country. Once we narrow it down to a specific set of great buyers for a particular opportunity, we run our competitive bid process. So we send all of our marketing materials to each of the buyers up front. We work with them very closely for several weeks, explaining the opportunity, answering questions, and then at the end of 2 to 3 weeks, we solicit and negotiate bids for our client. Once we agree on a price, we really work hard to make it a smooth transition to closing. We assist with due diligence questions and assist with contract negotiation with the lawyers.
Yeah, it's a process.
So the process is very, very important. We do a great job at Haig Partners, and it really makes a difference on a successful transaction.
Yeah, for sure. How important, Jayson, is confidentiality in something like this when a dealer's talking to you about selling their store, right? I mean, it's got to be at the top of the list, right?
Absolutely. You don't want to get rumors in the market, right? It's just a distraction. It could erode the value of the overall organization because it starts to impact performance.
Yeah.
So what Pete had mentioned earlier, I wanted to kind of piggyback on for two reasons. The comment that you just made, Jim, was about the confidentiality. We have an exclusive buyer list, right? So it doesn't matter. You don't want to go out to a volume of buyers. You want to know that you're going to a targeted group that your seller understands, and so you socialize that with your seller, you prove it, you go strictly to them because you know that they're capable and that they're going to execute well. The other thing that I wanted to mention is, you don't want to go one-to-one. The competitive bidding process is really important because it's easy to go out to the market and say, okay, here's the multiple for this franchise, but that doesn't necessarily mean that that's exactly right. I think saying, okay, it's a declining profitability against this multiple on this asset could be a potential mistake and leaving money on the table. I think at the end of the day, having the comprehensive offering materials that Pete just mentioned, given the full story of the franchise, and then going to the correct buyers and creating that competitive bidding process is how you maximize the value and you ensure execution. So I think it's very important to just say, to not just go one-to-one or, arrange, whether it's a competitor in your market or just go straight to a buyer. I think it's very important to have those offering materials, keep it confidential, and make sure that there's a competitive bidding process in there.
Sure. Yeah, makes sense. Jayson, while I've got you, and we'll stay with you for a second here, what do you say to those dealers that are thinking about exiting the business in, let's say, 3 to 5 years from now versus doing something today? What advice would you have for them? I mean, for dealers that might be having some growth anxiety, those who have been thinking about growing but are kind of unsure if they should do that because of the declining values, what advice do you have for them?
Yeah, so on the seller side, if you're looking to exit in the next 3 to 5 years, I mean, today is a great market to sell into. I mean, I know that the profitability is coming down, and like we had mentioned before, but I don't think it's scary. I don't think it's a bad market to sell into. I think it's just very important to have the right advisory team who can go to market correctly and accurately tell your story end to end. As you know, Jim, not all revenue streams within the dealer or net profit tells the full story. You know, whether it's a composition of fixed ops, variable ops, relationship in the community, customer loyalty strategies. I think those stories need to be told accurately, and I think that's why they should have an advisory team. But give us a call, talk to us about it. At the end of the day, we can provide a valuation today. We can provide a future forecast model based on, you know, what we potentially see in the next 2 to 3 or 4 years, and what those investment options could look like, to where you know where you'd be today and you know what you're trying to hurdle in a few years. So that's on the seller side. I don't think it's a bad market to sell into. On the buyer side, I think that if you're looking to grow, we've talked to a number of entrepreneurs who have had that exact same experience, right? They go from one store successfully, they're not sure if they want to go to the next store. There's a lot of anxiety around that. And they flat said, hey, I've acquired my second store and realized that my overall strategy is very sound. Yeah. Then they go back and they do another, you know, they do a third purchase, fourth purchase, and they realize that they've got this under control. And what I think is important is we've got some content coming out, you know, on our LinkedIn, on our website. We're going to be hosting additional conferences. I would suggest dealers get involved with us more often and discuss these kinds of real strong topics with their peers. I mean, it's important to kind of learn and grow. And I know there's other opportunities out there for them to collaborate, but I definitely suggest that they go online, check us out on Twitter, aka X, or X, aka Twitter, and then go on our LinkedIn page and just see what we're putting out there, connect with us and talk to us about it. And as you mentioned earlier, highly confidential conversations. One of the things that I would mention, going back to my earlier comment about joining the organization, obviously the organizations that I've been a part of in my entire career have always been at the top tier of their industries. The same thing with Haig Partners. One main reason is the overall, you know, commitment to the highest professional standards, right? We have the highest ethical, you know, professional standards in the industry. Alan and team model that on a daily basis. So if you call us, talk to us about it, we'll give you an accurate, valuation on your store, accurate market assessment, and it's completely confidential.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Pete, what do you say to that dealer that calls you and says, you know, I've got a store, I've had it for 40 years, I'm the second generation, I'm going to exit the business because of all this EV talk and digital retailing, and I don't know, maybe even my franchise might be under attack from the OEM. It's going to look different, you know, in 20 years than it is now, perhaps. And but here's the thing. I'm going to sell it to the dealer across town that's been asking to buy my store for the last 20 years. And we have a great relationship. You know, he's a Toyota store, and he's got Stellantis, and he wants my GM store. So I think I'm just going to sell it to him. Well, what do you say to a dealer that's got that in mind?
Great question. I guess the first thing I would say to him is, it's a tough decision to sell, right?
Sure.
It's not just a financial decision. There's a lot of emotion involved, and it typically involves family and potentially health issues.
Sure.
So we joke often that we're often therapists to a lot of our clients.
I bet
versus
you are. That's
strictly
right.
a financial
That's right.
advisor.
Sure.
So that's the first step. But a lot of our clients we talk to for years about a potential sale, and it just takes a while to make that decision. So that's the first thing I would feel out.
Yeah.
But I would also stress that the local buyer down the street may not be the best buyer for the business.
Yeah.
We often connect or find buyers from all the way across the country for a certain deal. Like I mentioned, there's a number of groups in California looking to grow in the Southeast, and they may be willing to pay more than your local dealer down the street. So it's very important to contact an advisor such as Haig Partners, who has relationships all across the country like that in order to maximize value for your client.
That's right. And sometimes their concern is, well, this guy's going to keep all my people, and he knows my people, and they're going to live here, and I don't want to upset the apple cart. But oftentimes that can come at the cost of millions of dollars of lost profitability in the deal, right?
Yeah, absolutely. We often have clients that do not want to go to the local dealers because they're concerned about confidentiality and potentially stealing employees and that sort of thing.
Sure.
It just depends on each circumstance.
Right. That's for sure. So talk to me about, I'm going to switch gears here a little bit, and talk to me about this incredible event that you guys just had down in Fort Lauderdale. It was moderated by the past NADA chairman, Mike Alford, great dealer. I've interviewed him a number of times, knows the business very, very well. And it was about succession planning, and you had Larry and Brett Morgan. I mean, who doesn't know these two guys, right? I mean, they're running all over the country,
right,
picking up stores. They're giving Lithia, and AutoNation a run for their money, and of course they're a private cap company. And then you also had Jeff Weiler and his son David, again, two big names as well. And of course you had Joe and his sons Nick and Chris Laham. Share a little bit about that panel and that event. What were some of the takeaways?
It's a great event. We had, like you said, a number of big dealers in the crowd. Mm-hmm. We hit on a number of topics that a lot of dealers don't talk about day to day, with us at least.
Sure.
We are, like I mentioned earlier, typically thought of as financial advisors up front, but
right,
often therapists behind the scenes. So we had a session on depression and anxiety. Mm-hmm. We had three sets of dads and sons on the stage, okay, talking about succession planning, okay, and we had a small crowd, so it really got emotional. People were not afraid to ask tough questions.
Wow, that's great.
Et cetera. So it was really neat, and it really flushed out that it's a bigger decision than just the numbers. It really gets emotional quickly.
Yeah. Jayson, I'll open that up to you.
Yeah, we have. And so kind of going back to your first question, it was so interesting to listen to the succession planning discussions. The dads talking about, the weight of their decision and what they're, preparing their children to make these transitions. Another thing that kind of came across that I didn't expect was when you have multiple children and one's in the business and is becoming the heir apparent of operating, and then there's maybe two or three others that choose to pursue something else.
Right.
And the weight of responsibility on the one that chooses to run the family enterprise and take care of everybody else was just something that I just didn't see before.
Yeah.
And Pete mentioned it. It was such a candid conversation. The weight of those responsibilities was felt in the audience. And so I felt like it was a fantastic discussion. But to your point, how many times have we seen folks exit, whether like Indigo organization and then they want to come back, you know what I mean?
Sure.
Van Tile, and then comes back. And, it's an addictive industry that we're all a part of. And, it's just a unique, very special industry. And I think that's what keeps people growing.
No question. We even saw at AutoNation where we would buy their dealership. I say we as AutoNation, and they'd buy it back from us a couple of years later, right? We had a couple of Toyota dealers, big Toyota dealers, that said, you know what, I'd like to take my store back over again. So I guess it's just to your point, it gets in your blood. It's an awesome industry.
Amazing industry.
I think that it's easy to say on those tough days, yeah, I'm going to retire. I'm fed up with the car business. Give me my fat check, and to your point, maybe I'll buy a big yacht at the boat show, and that wears off after about 6 months. Versus how much golf can you play, and they're still reading automotive news, and they still want to be in the game, right?
Exactly.
So you probably get those calls too to say, hey, listen, I'm ready to buy a store.
Oh, we do all the time. We have clients that sell. 3 to 6 months later, their golf game's not improving, and they call us right back.
That's right. So, and I appreciate all the time you guys have given me today. Just a couple of questions. What's your take on 2024 as it relates to the buy-sell market? Will it be a good year?
Yeah, it's still going to remain active. We're going to sell. At the peak, there were over 700 stores sold in 21, mm-hmm, over 622. We're going to probably be close to 600 this year again.
Wow.
Maybe in the 500s.
That's huge. Yeah.
We'll probably sell 500 stores next year as industry as a whole. So it's going to remain active despite values declining.
And Haig will sell 450 of them?
That's our goal.
That's our goal. that was good news for Alan if he's listening, right?
Right.
But what's your take on that, Jayson, in terms of next year?
I agree. I think there's going to be continued consolidation. I mean, I think in 2020 we saw the aggressive growth targets for Lithia, Sonic, Asbury for 2025, right? Mm-hmm. Lithia, I think, was targeting $50 billion in revenue. They're averaging, I think, just short of $4 billion a year in acquired revenue, but not all of that is going to be in the United States. They're a global firm now, but I still think there's going to be a lot of growth in terms of buy-sell activity, not just from consolidation, but from portfolio optimization as well, right?
Sure.
Trading out certain assets and replacing with others.
Yeah.
So I see it continuing to be very, very strong.
Sure. Let me ask you this, Jayson. I interviewed one dealer that was at a standalone Chevy store, albeit it was a pretty high volume store. They were doing 325 units a month, new and used. They've been there for 30 years. He said, I'm selling this year. So why are you selling? And he said, well, because I don't believe that the future is that strong for a standalone store. He said, I think that in the next 10 or 15 years, the industry is going to be made up of about 20 major players that will own 80% of the dealerships that are out there. Is he wrong on that, or what's your take on an observation like that?
I think certain markets and certain brands, single point's going to get more challenging. You know, what I mentioned earlier about digital, I think, access to inventory, I think talent acquisition, things like that is going to get more challenging. Now, sure. I think we've talked in the past about like a Toyota in a metro market, single point, you're probably going to be okay, right? But I think there's benefits to scale. And I think if you have a strong regional brand, you're going to be fine. It's competing against the nationals. But I think remaining as a single point could become more challenging over time. Yeah.
Pete, what's your take on that?
I agree. There's still, in fact, in our succession panel with Larry Morgan, that topic came up. And Larry was under the opinion that single stores will be okay, not like what a lot of people are saying in the future. And his thesis was that entrepreneurial spirit in the store, for single owner owning one store can often beat a big player in the industry, like a
little bit more nimble, right? And can change quicker and also maybe has a better relationship in some cases with that community, where people feel a little bit more loyal. And I know in that case, you guys put the deal together for that record-breaking Toyota store, Al Hendrickson Toyota, which was huge. And Al Hendrickson enjoyed such an incredible name there in Coral Springs, the Fort Lauderdale market. And that was interesting. That's an interesting observation. But I think I agree with Larry. I think there's a lot of runway for those stores that are out there. So any final thoughts as we close out the session today for dealers that are out there that are kind of on the fence?
Thanks for being here, Jim. I think some advice for dealers who are on the fence: it doesn't hurt to start a conversation with us. Like we said earlier, sometimes it takes years for our clients to decide whether to sell.
Sure.
We can help along the way. We're a trusted advisor. We can offer no cost valuation to them at any point during the process. We can obviously keep them updated on what's going on in the buy-sell market, and then we can also provide suggestions on prepping for a potential sale in the future.
Okay. So it's never too soon to call you, right?
That doesn't hurt to start a conversation.
Right. Jayson, you got the last words. What do you want to leave our viewers with, our dealers that are watching right now across America that are listening to this segment? There's probably a few thousand of them actually over the course of the next week.
Yeah, just get in contact with us if you have any questions. Get connected with us on LinkedIn. Check out our content that we're pushing out. Get involved with our polls. We've got some active polls to collect information. We got the Haig report coming out real soon. Keep an eye on that. That'll help you keep informed.
I know that's on your calendar, Jim.
That is.
The Haig report coming out.
That's exactly right. The Haig report.
Yeah, so like Pete said, I think it's just a matter of connecting with us, and we can give you advice. We can keep you informed, give you a no-cost valuation, let you know where you stand today and what you're going to do in the future. And if you're looking at growing, give us a call as well, and we can help you talk through some of those strategies and what we're seeing. So just connect with us. I think that's the message.
That's fantastic. The next time I will see you two gentlemen will be at the FADA Hall of Fame for the inductees. It's going to be a big dinner down in Orlando, which we're looking forward to. I know you all are big sponsors of that event. On behalf of the association, thank you. I will be the MC for that evening. That's right. It should be a great evening. So we're looking forward to it. Awesome. So Pete Thiel, Managing Director at Haig Partners, and Jayson Crouch, also Managing Director at Haig Partners. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you.
Thank you.